Okay, so you all know how these deck guides work, but for those of you who don't, I will just jump right into it. The first part is overview of the deck. Second is change to make the deck to maybe make it better or more budget depending on what you want. And the third one is matchups and mulligans for those matchups and why this deck is good. So I'm just going to start off by saying this deck is probably one of the best decks in the meta right now. Now, before you guys tell me I'm wrong, just wait. I will explain everything. But I think that this is probably one of the best decks in the meta right now, and I've climbed very successfully with it with an over 80% win rate this season. And last season I was using at the end, it was like a 60-65% win rate, pretty much stomping every game. So an overview of the deck, basically what you want to do is you just want to go face. You want to go hard to the face, hero power whenever possible, and swarm the board with minions. Not entirely swarm it. You don't want to get a super wide board, but you want to have a pretty decent sized board. Always have at least 2 minions on there if you can. That way if you draw a Fungal Mancer. But never have that many. Never have like too many, because if you have too many, Unleash the Hounds might not be able to pop off, or if they have a Spreading Plague, they can get you that way. And you don't want to use up, I don't know. Basically, you don't want to totally swarm it. Especially considering sometimes if you have like the Arceus Veteran, that +1 attack, you don't want to play it if you don't want to put it on something. Unless it's turn 1, in which case maybe. So some cards you just want to save in general. Ironbeak Owl, you don't want to just play it for the sake of playing it, and things like that. This game, this deck is more of a just really fast, not super wide, but fast because the minions that you play are high value. Like Bear Shark and Animal Companion alone, and the Duskhaven Hunter. Those 3 cards for 3 drops are insane. Ridiculous value. Animal Companion, every single one of them is above a 3 value card. Bear Shark not being able to be targeted means it only loses to Warlock, which this deck does well against because he does damage to himself. And the Duskraven Hunter could potentially be a 5/2, which again, if they don't have board wipe, is 5 damage going to the face on turn 3 or 4, depending on when you get it out. So that's it. They basically just want to go super hard at the face. You don't want to flood too much. I threw in a secret plan in here just in case you play against a matchup where you're like, okay, I might need a freeze trap, or if I'm playing against an aggro, I might need an explosive. It's just a little tech. You could probably take it out for something like, I don't know, King Mukla if you want to try that out. Or something like maybe some more. No, I actually really like the secret plan tech. You could take it out for something, but I'd personally keep it in there. But yeah, very face-heavy deck. Hero power when you can. Play 1-drops. Only time I wouldn't hero power turn 2 is if you have 2 value 1-drops. Like if you have the Arceus Veteran to just play on turn 2 on a minion that you already have out there, so you don't lose too much damage, you just get more pressure on the board. That's fine. But generally speaking, turn 2 hero power is really strong. Turn 3, a 3-drop. Turn 4, maybe a 3-drop and a 1-drop, or a 1-drop in hero power. Turn 5, at this point you should have a 5-drop. Bittertide Hydra or Fungal Mancer should do fine. Don't Leroy yet, unless you're in kill range. And then, if you need to, you have Baku, who's a beast, so it still pops off with kill command. I mean, it's not even that bad of an option. It's a terrible option, but I mean, I'm a positive guy, looking for the positive things. So basically, just go face. I went into way too much explanation as to why to go face, and a few exceptions, which I think is important to know. But yeah, just go face. Changes you can make to the deck. Just go face Hunter. I'm making a deck on that as well for tomorrow, a guide on that. And if you're watching this tomorrow or the day after I've made this, then it's already out. I'll put that as an iCard, so don't worry. But basically, what you want to do with this deck is you want to go with the budget option of Face Hunter, because this deck relies on Baku, and if you can't afford a legendary, you should just go with Face Hunter because it's like an 1100 dust deck, and it's just as effective, in my opinion. So, matchups. This deck beats Druid, in my opinion, for the sole purpose of it's so fast that Druid doesn't have enough time to ramp up. It's the same reason why Zulok can beat it, but this one, I think, has an edge, because it doesn't lose to Spreading Plague necessarily, because you do a lot of damage with direct spells and your hero power. Like, if you have Kill Command and your hero power, that's 8 damage, potentially, to his face after he's plays Spreading Plague. Then you should be pretty close to killing him at that point anyway. Not only that, but since you don't mass the board too hard because you save some minions in your hand, sometimes you even save the Glacial Shard as well. I said the Arceus Veteran, but the Glacial Shard's another 1-drop that you don't necessarily always want to play. Into Rogue, play it, but into some other decks where they're not going to attack, you don't necessarily want to just throw it out there. But since you don't necessarily totally mass the board, it's actually good against it because they're not going to get too much out of the Spreading Plague. And you rush them down before they can ramp up and get a ton of armor. Hunter. You actually beat Hunter because they're mid-range and you're able to get good board state really early on. And if they don't have Explosive Trap, which you can just test out with a singular 1-drop and then start refilling the board, you're probably just going to win regardless because it's going to take them till turn 5 to get out their Wolves or get their Subject 9 or their Grizzly. And at that point, you already gotten yourself into a winning position. And this goes against pretty much every Hunter deck. They're just mid-range now rather than aggro, so people don't, they won't be able to respond to your early game pressure, probably. Unless they get, a Candle Shot and a Dire Mole with the Crackling Razor Maw buff to give it, attack, and just trade into your minions and get super lucky to match your early game tempo, they're going to lose. Mage, Tempo Mage was nerfed. I think that this deck beats Tempo Mage now because it's a little bit slower, and this deck can outrace him. And in a Big Mage, sure, they wipe your board with removal, but you have hero power and some extra spells and charge minions with the potential Animal Companion and the Unleash the Hounds, but also you have just the fact that if they wipe your board, you still kill them. Also, they wipe your board on turn 5, and it's the same thing with Hunter and Druid. You just rush them down too fast. Paladin is a bit rough because they can deal with your minions immediately with their massive Silverhand recruits if it's Odd Paladin, and even other Paladins because they actually have some heal and some control tactics. So Paladin's actually a little bit rough, but not terrible. Priest, from my experience, is actually pretty good because you rush them down before they get their combo. Sure, they can heal up, but it's usually not enough to match you, especially considering in some, they want to heal the minions rather than themselves so they can combo you with Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, or Topsy Turvy or something. So really, Priest is not a bad matchup for you either. Rogue, you beat Rogue, unless it's Odd Rogue. Odd Rogue, it's 50-50 in my opinion, whoever can rush the other person down first. I recently lost a game where I got him down to 3 health, and he just had Leroy Cold Blood, and he rushed me down and he had the cards. But I would have won that game if he hadn't, and I've also won games against it where I had Leroy in hand and I won the game with the 6 extra damage. So it's just an aggro race. With this one, just a specific keep that you might want to pay attention to is the Glacial Shard. If he goes first, what you want to do is you want to play Glacial Shard on turn 2, or play it on turn 3. That way, if he has the Thug in hand, you Glacial Shard him, and he can't upgrade the Thug, which means that you can kill it with a potential Eaglehorn Bow or Kill Command if you have to, so it doesn't snowball out of control. Glacial Shard actually does pretty well into this matchup. But Odd Rogue, just in general, does well for the same reason why Zulok does well, because the weapon can trade into the minions while he is able to keep his board control alive with his minions. And he pumps up some of his minions, and they have super high tempo, so really it's just a face race. If you can get good Animal Companions, if you can get 1, 2, 3s, well, actually, no, not 2s, 1s and 3s, really good ones to gain pressure, and then maybe a Fungal Mancer or Bittertide Hydra to close out the game is helpful as well, or Leroy. Leroy's actually really good in this matchup. The extra damage means that you kill them the turn that they could kill you. Because if you're just going face, and you're both at 10 health, and you're like, okay, I need Leroy to kill him here, you might be able to get it. And if you don't, then he could possibly have it and kill you with it. So, again, face race into the other rogue decks. Quest Rogue is too slow, and Tespionage has no defensive options, so you just kill him before they're able to do anything. Shaman, you kill them before they're able to do anything. Into Shudderwalk, into Even, it's a little bit rough, but it's still winnable, because it doesn't have heal. But the fact is, he can control your board with his totems and the eel on turn 2. It can kill some of your stuff. Now, honestly, it's just annoying. But I do think that because of the fact that you don't have too many minions on the board, so he's not able to really capitalize on the fact that he can remove your minions with Fireplume Phoenix and the Flame Elemental and the eel, you're actually in a pretty fine position. Especially considering that if he has a ton of totems, he actually doesn't pressure that much damage because he's going to have 3 totems on the board that don't actually give him damage. And if you don't have minions on the board for him to trade into, or if you have Unleash the Hounds, you can do a lot of burst damage to him that he's not expecting. So it all depends on how he plays, I guess, and if he has his responses, and if he plays correctly. But if he plays suboptimally, you're basically going to win the game. Warlock beats Even because he does damage to himself, and you just kind of ping him over and over and over again. Into Zoo, it's kind of like Odd Rogue. It's just whoever can rush the other person down first, except he doesn't have the weapon to do it. And he's going to be doing damage to himself and has no way to heal. Well, he has limited ways to heal. and you might be able to rush him down. And if he gets a wide board, you can unleash the hounds. Animal Companion can get you a good taunt. The Dust Cave and Hunter being stealth means you can't kill it, and you can just deal direct face damage. And it's not a terrible matchup, but I would say it's like 50-50 whoever can rush the person down first. And Warrior, just a bad matchup. You can't keep up with the armor that he produces. So I said earlier that this is probably one of the best decks in the meta right now, and I'm going to say that because it's good against pretty much everything except Paladin and Warrior, which are two of the least popular classes right now. And I'll talk about Paladin in like within the next month about how I think it's actually a really, really, really good class. I think it's actually a ridiculously good class, especially now that nobody's playing. I played it a little bit last season. It was one of the decks that helped me get to Legend. I had like a 56% win rate on it, just playing it for funsies, getting from rank like 5 to rank 2 pretty easily. So if people start playing that deck more and realizing how good it is, then this is going to be a bit rough. But until then, Hunter's popular, you beat Hunter. Druid's popular, you beat Druid. Warlock's popular, you beat Warlock in certain matchups, and Rogue is popular, and you beat Rogue in certain matchups. And in the matchups that aren't, quote, favored for you, it's pretty 50-50 whoever rushes the other person down first. Other than that, like, Warrior you lose to, but that's not popular. Paladin, popular, you lose to, but it's not popular, I'm sorry. Shaman, not super popular, but you should be able to beat. And then it has a 50% matchup, but that one's a lot less popular. Priest, you should be able to beat before they get their combo. And Mage, you should be able to beat because removal doesn't affect you as hard as it does with other things. So I think this deck is a really, really good deck in the meta, especially considering the fact that they'll see Hunter, be like, oh, it's mid-range, we don't have to we don't have to keep as much like early control, or we can go for more mid-range power and try to outclass him in that regard. And so you'll be able to just wipe him with your early game pressure, whoever doesn't keep correctly, because I think it's a different kind of Hunter deck. So keeps, going to talk about it real quick. You want to keep most 3-drops and 1-drops. Anything 5 and above, get rid of. Unleash the Hounds is fine into some aggro matchups because you can use it to control the board, or as some surprising bursts because they build up a wide board. But into control matchups like Druid or Mage or Warrior. I was going to say Warlock, but it's probably going to be Zoo. I'd keep it into Warlock because mostly it's Zoo. But into Mage and Druid and Warrior, I wouldn't keep it. Actually, not even Priest either. They don't get a wide board. So don't keep it into those 4 matchups. But into like Hunter, depending on the matchup, he could have some minions that you could capitalize on. Odd Paladin, tons of minions, and weak too, so you could definitely control the board or kill him with it. Rogue, Odd Rogue is most popular. They get a decent amount of minions. Shaman, it could be even, or even if it's Shadowwalk, they get some minions. And Warlock, it could be Zulok, and it's most likely Zulok, so I keep in that one too. Let's see, any other special cases here? I would keep the Glacial Shard into like Rogue, potentially, but not many others. It's like one of the 1-drops that I wouldn't necessarily keep all the time. And the Veteran, unless you have another 1-drop. But the Veteran as a standalone 1-drop is not very good. And I'm greedy, so I don't play it on turn 1 for because I don't necessarily want him to just kill it, ping it off right away without getting a battle cry. But if you're playing against like a Priest or a Paladin, where you can't just ping it off immediately, it might be okay to keep him play on turn 1. Also, Glacial Shard is good into Druid, so he can't hero power at turn 1. But yeah, mostly keep the 1-drop Secret Plane, keep into aggro matchups for like Freeze Trap or Wandering Once or Explosive Trap to stall out, just in case like you don't have a good early game hand or you can't keep up with the tempo, because Odd Rogue can be a little bit much sometimes. So if you get like a Freeze Trap or like a Wandering Monster, it can save you a lot of damage. But yeah, don't keep Ironbeak Owl or necessarily kill commands. Kill commands are more of an endgame burst kind of thing. Eaglehorn Bow can be used as damage or control, so I keep that. But yeah, keep pretty much all 3-drops and 1-drops except the Arceus Veteran and Glacial Shard into some things. And the Ironbeak Owl, literally keep almost never. And kill command, you can keep if your early game hand's like ridiculous and you know you want to kill him early. But if it's not, just get rid of it and go for like more actual tempo-based stuff for minions. But yeah, I think this deck is probably one of the best in the meta right now, as I've said multiple times. And I hope you guys agree, because honestly, I really had a blast playing this deck. Games are fast. You know when you win and when you lose. So sometimes if you know that they get to their power spec, you can just concede and move on to the next game rather than dragging it on. And yeah, it's a very fun deck to play, very solid, and I would recommend it to everyone.